Fed up with the everyday grind. Tired out from the summer heat. Want to get away from it all?
We offer you Escape. Escape, designed to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
You are groping through the midnight dimness of a gigantic department store, and suddenly you realize that 100 eyes are staring at you from the shadows, and 100 hands are reaching for your throat, and your most urgent desire is to escape.
Tonight, we escape to a fantastic world of night dwellers, as John Collier imagines it in his eerie story, Evening Primrose.
Sadie? Sadie, what's the matter? It's me.
Oh, you nearly scared me to death. What do you mean coming in so quiet?
Oh, I didn't mean to scare you. I thought you'd be asleep. I didn't want to wake you.
Oh, Sam, I'm so glad you're home.
Hey, what's the matter?
Oh, it's terrible. You gotta do something, Sam.
What's terrible?
It's this. Just look at this.
What's terrible about that? Looks like an ordinary pad of paper to me.
Yeah, that's just it. That's just what I thought. But it's got writing in it. Oh, it's awful.
And now, wait a minute. Maybe you better tell me what this is all about.
Well, today I went shopping at Bracey's department store.
Yeah?
I needed some writing paper, so I picked this up. It was on top of the pile. So I bought it and I brought it home. But tonight, when I opened it, I found it's got writing in it.
Well, that's nothing so terrible. Just take it back tomorrow and make him give you a new one.
Nah, you don't understand. It's what's written in it that's so terrible.
What do you mean, what's written in it?
Here, you gotta read it.
Ah, Sadie.
No, right now. Now read it.
Look, Sadie, I'm tired. I've been bowling all evening.
Please, Sam, please, just read it.
But for Pete's sake...
Sam.
Oh, all right. October 13th. Today, I made my decision. I decided to say goodbye to the world. To get out, leave, break away. And I have done it. Ah, Sadie,
Go on, read.
And now I am free. Really free. Yes, I am free at last.
Yes, I am free at last. The world is an intolerable place for a poet. I was broke, starving, at my wit's end. And then I had the brilliant idea. I'd escape to a place where I'd had no need to earn a living, where I could write to my heart's content in peace and security. And where is this place? Right under your nose, so close you'd never think of it. I am now living in Bracey's department store. I have everything within arm's reach that anyone would need or desire. And it's all free. Absolutely free. I arrived this afternoon. I'd spent 3 days looking over all the department stores in town. I decided on Bracey's because of the completeness of their food department. Therefore, this afternoon I entered the store and went immediately to the 4th floor, to the rug department, and hid myself in this dusty, out-of-the-way corner behind a pile of carpets. Once I'm settled, I'll furnish it with the best of modern pieces from the furniture department. It's small, but it'll be cozy enough and safe. After the store closed, I made my first venture out. I tiptoed as far as the stationery counter and got this paper, the writer's primary need. Now, after making my first entry, I'll go out and get food, and wine, and the pillows for my bed, and perhaps even a fancy dressing gown. This is perfect. Here I'll be able to write. Dawn, October 14th. I am almost too unnerved to write this. The whole thing is unbelievable. After the store was dark and completely quiet, I crept out and started for the food department. One's steps echo hollowly in an empty department store at night, and I found myself gliding along the floor on tiptoe, moving as silently as possible. But the sound of footsteps persisted, and suddenly I realized that they were not my own. The night watchman. I was in the Salon Moderne, so quickly I seized a mink coat from a hanger and draped it about my shoulders and stood stock still. I could have reached out and touched him, but he passed without so much as a glance. I started to smile, but the smile froze on my lips. There was someone else here. I was looking straight into a pair of eyes, large, flat, luminous, inhuman eyes a dozen feet away. They belonged to a creature dressed as a man, but he was as pale as something found under a stone. His hands hanging motionless at his sides looked more like the fins on a fish than human hands. And then he spoke.
Not bad for a beginner.
I'm sorry. I didn't know anybody else lived here.
Oh, yes, we live here. It's delightful.
We?
Yes, all of us. Don't you see? Look around you.
I looked around and saw nothing. I looked again and saw an old one come clambering out from behind a clock. And there were 3 elderly ingenues, incredibly emaciated, pale as lace, almost transparent, simmering before a perfume counter. And a chintzy lady swam out from the curtains and the drapes. Then they came swarming thick around me. Pale, thin, wispy, moving silently, fluttering like gauze in the wind, whispering.
Of course, it's a sign. We see. Detective, send for the dark men. Yes, send for the dark men.
They were pressing around me, clawing, holding me, their pale faces contorted with venomous and human hatred. I was paralyzed. All I could do was repeat over and over again, I am not a detective. I'm not a detective. I'm not.
A burglar, then. Hold him, carry him to the place. Send for the dark men.
Stop. Let him speak.
I am not a detective or a burglar. I'm a poet.
But what are you doing here?
I've renounced the world. I came here to live where I could be alone, away from the world.
Why, then he's come over to us. He's just like us. Yes. He must meet Mrs. Vanderpant. Mrs. Vanderpant, she's coming now.
I followed their eyes toward the balcony, and the hair on my neck rose again. There, coming down the wall, like an ancient spider, clambered an old lady, wrinkled and crackled and emaciated. She must have been at least 80, a shadowy matriarch. And the things around me bowed and scraped as she reached the floor and floated toward us.
What's going on here? Where is that stupid girl? What's keeping her?
Oh, Mrs. Vanderpant.
Well, what is it? Who's this, Mr. Roscoe?
Mrs. Vanderpant, may I present Mr.
Huh? Oh, Snell. Charles Snell.
Yes, Mr. Snell. He's a poet. He has come here to live.
Oh, he has he?
That's what he says. And I believe him.
Well...
He avoided the night watchman quite neatly. For a beginner.
Thank you.
Very well. We shall see. A poet should find inspiration here.
Mr. Snell, Mrs. Vanderpant is our grand old lady.
Oh?
I am quite the oldest inhabitant here, Mr. Snell. 3 mergers and a complete rebuilding. But they didn't get rid of me. Oh, where is Ella? Where is my broth?
She's bringing it, Mrs. Vanderpant. It will come.
Terrible little creature. She's our foundling, Mr. Snell. She's not quite our sort.
Oh, is that so?
I have been here, Mr. Snell, ever since the terrible times of the 80s. I was a young girl then, a beauty, they said.
I'm sure.
And poor Papa lost his money. Braces meant a lot to a young girl in those days. So when I wasn't able to have a charge account, I came here to live. That's better than a charge account. I was quite alarmed when others began to come after the crash of 1907. Oh, but it was the dear judge, the
hello.
colonel, Mrs.
How do you do?
Bilby.
How are you?
Mrs. Bilby writes plays.
Oh?
and comes of an old Philadelphia family. You'll find us quite nice here, Mr. Snell.
I'm sure I will.
And, of course, our dear young people came in 1929. Their poor papas jumped from skyscrapers. They couldn't bear to be without charge accounts either.
But you mean all these nice people live here?
Oh, and many more. You shall meet them all later.
Oh, here comes Ella with my broth. Come here, you stupid thing.
Mrs. Vanderpant is waiting, Ella.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'm coming as fast as I can. Oh, here.
On the table over there, Ella. Now be careful, don't spill it.
Oh, but she's young.
Well, of course she is a little younger than most of us.
She's different. She's beautiful.
That's right, old fellow. She's really not our sort.
Oh, you shouldn't say such things. She can hear you.
Oh, that doesn't matter.
Mrs. Bilby, please. Mr. Snell, you will understand these things better after you've been here for a while.
But it seems to me
Mr. Snell, we have certain rules here. They are necessary for our survival. I'm sure you won't find it hard to observe them.
Well, yes, but
I should advise you that you try. If you do not, it would be most unfortunate, Mr. Snell. Most unfortunate for you.
October 15th. You can imagine my feelings last night. My first thought was to escape as quickly as possible. In fact, I planned to quit my hiding place and mingle with the crowds and leave Bracey's forever. But just at dawn, Mr. Roscoe brought me a cup of coffee, which must have been drugged, for I fell asleep. And when I awoke, I found that I'd slept all day, and night was closing over the store once more. Later. I have spent my second night here. I saw Ella again. Ella, the pearl of this remote, fantastic cave. She's not like the others. A trifle pale, but otherwise normal and human and beautiful. A child of perhaps 18. She is the only thing that makes this nightmare bearable. October 20th. Escape seems almost impossible. There is a very effective burglar alarm system, and the doors are all carefully guarded. But that is nothing compared to the dark men. Who are the dark men? I don't know, but the inhabitants here threaten any transgressor with these dark men. I shall try to discover who they are. I am sure I'm watched, though they've begun to trust me now. Speaking to the night watchman would be suicide. Even if he believed my fantastic story or didn't shoot me as a burglar, I'm convinced that neither Ella nor I could get out of here alive. She and the night watchman are the only real people here. And how the others hate the night watchman.
Odious, vulgar creature. He reeks of the coarse sun.
Oh, come now, Mrs. Bilby. He's really a very personable young man. Very young for a night watchman.
Mr. Snell, sometimes I wonder about your taste.
Oh, you must not stay so much to yourself. You must become better acquainted with our ways.
That's quite true, old man. Oh, you must come to the play tonight. We're going to be entertained with one of Mrs. Bilby's tragic comedies, Love in Shadowland. I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
I'm sure I will.
Oh, it's really a festive occasion, you know. Wanamaker's is coming over.
Wanamaker's?
Yes, the entire colony over at Wanamaker's is coming here en masse to attend the play.
You mean there are people living in other stores?
Oh, dear, yes, didn't you know? Of course, the best people live in Bracey's and Wanamaker's.
Oh, come now, Mrs. Bilby. There are some very nice people at Altman's.
I beg your pardon, Mrs. Bilby.
Hello, Ella.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Snell.
Well, what is it, Ella?
Oh, please, ma'am, I'd so love to see your play tonight. May I have your permission?
Certainly not. You know better than that, you stupid creature. You know where you belong. In the basement by the garbage cans.
But Mrs. Bilby...
Hush, Mr. Snell.
Ella, you're becoming entirely too forward of late. I advise you to watch your step. Remember the dark men.
Oh, no. Please, Mr. Roscoe. I'll be good. I promise I will. Oh, no, please don't send for the dark man. I'm sorry, Mrs. Bilby.
Ella, come back.
Charles, you forget yourself. Let her go.
But how can you treat her like that? Why do you always frighten her? And what is all this about the dark men?
Well, Mr. Snell,
Oh, please, Mr. Roscoe, not now. You'll spoil our whole evening, and I do so want Mr. Snell to enjoy my play.
Very well, Mrs. Bilby. Later, Charles.
But I want to know about the dark men.
Later.
October 21st. I found an opportunity to speak to Ella alone. I had not dared to speak to her before. Here one has the sense always of pale eyes secretly watching. But last night at the play, I induced a fit of hiccups. As I anticipated, I was sternly reprimanded and told to go and secret myself in the basement where the night watchman wouldn't hear me. This was exactly what I'd planned. I went to the basement. And there, in the darkness, among the garbage cans and the rats, I heard sobbing. Ella? Ella?
Oh,
Ella, is that you?
yes.
Why are you crying? What is it, Ella?
They wouldn't even let me see the play.
Oh, is that all?
Oh, Mr. Snell, I'm so unhappy.
Oh, there. You mustn't cry.
You're the only one. The only one who is kind.
Ella, why are you here? Why do they treat you so differently?
Because I'm not like them. I didn't choose to come here.
You mean you were held prisoner?
Yes. You see, I was only 6. I came here on a shopping tour with my mother. I got lost and fell asleep behind a counter. It was dark when I awoke, and they found me. Some of them wanted to send for the dark men because they were afraid I would tell on them. But Mrs. Vanderpant said no. I could stay and be her maid. I've been here ever since.
Since you were 6? But haven't you ever tried to get away?
Oh, no. I don't know anything about out there. I wouldn't know what to do. Besides, I'm afraid to take the chance. If anyone tries to get out, they send for the dark men.
Ella, who are the dark men?
Don't you know? Oh, it's horrible.
Tell me.
Well, you know how people live in all the stores, at Gimbel's and Bloomingdale's? And...
Yes, I know.
Well, the dark men live at the undertakers.
Good heavens.
And whenever someone dies or breaks the rules, or when a burglar gets in and sees these people and might tell, they send for the dark men.
Why, that's horrible.
They put the body in the butcher shop in the food department, and then the dark men come. I saw them once. It was terrible.
What do they do?
They go in where the dead person is. They have wax with them and all sorts of things. And when they're gone, there's just a wax model left on the counter. Then our people put a frock on it or a bathing suit and mix it up with all the other wax models in the windows. And nobody ever knows.
Ella, you mean all these dummies are...
Oh, no. At least, not all of them. But if you displease these people, the same thing might happen to you.
October 30th. I've not kept up my journal. Writing has been out of the question. Once more, I'm frozen with terror. Not for myself now, but for Ella. They hate her. Any time they might turn against her and send her to the dark men. My mind is filled with her. I dream of her every day. I live to see her at night. We've managed it several times. They trust me now and let me roam about without interference. And finally tonight I met her again and said it. Ella, I love you.
Charles.
I love you, Ella. Let's get married, or whatever they do here, and then we can live together in my home in the carpet department. They wouldn't dare hurt you then.
Charles.
Oh, don't look so dismayed. If you like, we'll go away from here. Maybe we can get transferred to Bergdorf Goodman, overlooking Central Park.
Don't, Charles, don't. You must.
Oh, but I love you. Ella, you're not in love with someone else.
Oh, Charles.
But who? I thought you hated them all. Oh, it must be Roscoe. He's the only one that's young enough.
Oh, no, Charles, not Roscoe, especially not him. Oh, I do hate them all. They make me shudder.
Well, who is it then?
It's he,
Who?
the night watchman.
No, that's impossible.
Oh, I love him. He smells of the sun.
Ella.
Oh, it was wonderful, the way it happened. Don't tell on me, Charles, or they'll punish me.
Oh, no.
I was careless. And there he was, coming around the corner in the ladies' lingerie department. I was caught. There were only some wax models in their underthings. There was nothing else to do. I slipped off my dress and stood still.
I see.
He stopped near me. He looked at me. And, oh, Charles, he spoke to me. He said, "Say, honey, I wish they made them like you on 8th Avenue." Oh, Charles, wasn't that a lovely thing to say?
Personally, I should have said Park Avenue.
Oh, Charles, don't get like these people here. It doesn't matter what avenue, Charles. It was just a lovely thing to say.
But what can you do about him, Ella? He belongs to another world.
Yes, to 8th Avenue, and I want to go there. Charles, are you really my friend?
Oh, yes, of course I am.
Then I'll tell you. I'm going to stand there again in the lingerie department so he'll see me.
And then?
Perhaps he'll speak to me again.
Oh, Ella, you're only torturing yourself.
Oh, no, because this time I shall answer him, and he'll take me away.
Take you away? Oh, no, Ella. I couldn't bear that. You don't love him. You only think you do because you think he'll take you out of here. But you don't know that he will. And I will, Ella. I've made up my mind.
No, Charles. I couldn't let you do it. Even if I loved you, you couldn't do it, Charles.
Why not?
Because you really belong here. You've become one of them now.
Ella, you mustn't say that.
It's true. And, Charles.
What?
I've got to go. There's someone watching us. I feel it.
Wait, Ella.
Goodbye, Charles.
No, Ella, come back. Ella!
Please, old fellow, you'll arouse the night watchman.
Roscoe.
Yes? Love can be very upsetting, can't it?
You heard?
Just the last moment or so. Very touching. I was rather surprised. And yet it's understandable. I've been attracted to Ella myself. We're still young, you know. And so she loves another. Too bad, old fellow. Who could it be? Could it be that I am the cause of your heartbreak?
You flatter yourself too much, Roscoe.
Then who? The old judge? Certainly not. The colonel? Hardly.
None of those.
Not one of the customers. The staff?
She loves the night watchman. Can you imagine that? She loves the night...
Oh.
Roscoe, I shouldn't have said that. It's not true. At least I don't think it's true. You wouldn't... You said you loved her, too. You wouldn't do anything... Tell anybody. This is a secret between us, between friends, isn't it?
Of course, old man. As secret as the grave.
She's young. Perhaps he'll leave and she'll forget him. In time, who knows? Perhaps she will learn to love you or me.
Of course, in time.
And we'll figure a way to keep her safe here.
Absolutely safe. Now, don't you worry about it. Well, it's almost dawn. Time for bed. Good morning, Charles.
Early evening, November the 4th. I was a fool. I should have known he couldn't be trusted. He must have gone straight to Mrs. Vanderpant. This evening, the atmosphere has changed. People flickered to and fro, smiling nervously, horribly, with a sort of frightened, sadistic exultation. An informal dance in the record department's been called off. And I can't find Ella. I'm going out again now to look for her. Roscoe, what have you done with her?
Quiet, old chap. The night watchman.
I don't care. What have you done with her?
Whatever I did for your own good as well as the good of us all.
Wait a minute. What is that? What are those people carrying? What? Why, it's Ella. She's tied up, and they're carrying her. Ella! Ella!
Stop it, Joe. Stop it.
Let me go! Let me go!
No, stop, Joe. Stop it. You'll arouse the night watchman.
But they're taking her into the butcher shop. Ella! Ella! Ella!
Yes, Charles. Those are the dark men.
Midnight. I'm scribbling this last entry hurriedly. There and there in the butcher shop with Ella. The dark men. There's only one thing to do. I'm going to find the night watchman and tell him. He and I will save her if we can. And if we're overpowered, well, I will leave this pad on the stationery counter. Tomorrow, if I live, I will recover it. If I do not, whoever finds this and reads it, look in the windows. Look for 3 new wax dummies. 2 men, one rather sensitive looking, and a girl. She has blonde hair and blue eyes, and her nose turns up a little. Look for us. And then find them. Smoke them out. Exterminate them. Avenge us.
Find them, smoke them out, exterminate them, avenge us.
Sam, isn't it horrible? We gotta do something. Tell somebody something. Oh, Sam, what'll we do?
Do? Nothing, go to bed.
Oh, but Sam.
Whoever wrote this has sure got a weird sense of humor, hey? Probably some clerk down at Bracey's ought to be fired.
You mean you think it's just a story?
Are you kidding? You don't believe that stuff, do you?
Well, I don't know. I just thought...
Ah, forget it, baby. Snap out of it. I shouldn't leave you alone. You get too many ideas when I go bowling at night.
Oh, Sam. Sam, don't you think maybe we ought to just take it back and show somebody?
Nuts. It's not worth the bother. They'd laugh at you, baby. Think you were crazy or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess I was silly.
Forget it. Come on, let's go to bed. I'm tired.
Sure, Sam. Golly, for a while I was sure scared. I even forgot what I was going to tell you.
What?
Sam, I found the cutest dress today, only $19.95.
Yeah, baby?
Yeah. It was in the window at Bracey's. It was on a beautiful little wax model with blonde hair, blue eyes, and a sort of turned up nose, and there were 2 men standing.
Escape is produced and directed by Norman MacDonald. Tonight, we have brought you Evening Primrose by John Collier, adapted for radio by John Dunkel. Featured in tonight's story were Bill Conrad as Charles and Constance Cavendish as Ella, with Harry Bartell, Lillian Baeff, Jeff Corey, Kay Miller, and Irene Tedrow. Special music by Ivan Ditmars. Next week.
When you've had all you can stand of routine, when your everyday chores offer you no release, when the 4 walls are closing in on you, join us for Escape.
Next week, we escape with another great story by one of the world's outstanding authors. Good night, then, until this same time next week, when once again we offer you Escape. Roy Rowan speaking for CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Fed up with the everyday grind? Tired out by the dull routine? You want to get away from it all?
We offer you Escape. Escape, designed to free you from the 4 walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
You are crouched in the middle of an immense hurricane. houses, animals, trees sweeping past you. And you suddenly realize that you've tampered with the universe, that you're bringing about the destruction of the world.
Tonight, we escape to a placid English village and the presence of an equally placid little man who one day shook the world, as H.G. Wells told it in his delightful and famous story, The Man Who Could Work Miracles.
And now, I might say right in the beginning that I ain't the kind of chap who has a naturally argumentative disposition, meaning the kind who's always engaging in hostile discussions with perfect strangers. Quite the contrary. I'm a reasonable man who always takes proper thought before he speaks, and one who has due respect for scientific truth. Why, I ain't never opened my mouth to utter a word that wasn't a pure, a undiluted, a fact.
That's what you say.
Howsoever, when a man of inferior intellect, such as Toddy Beamish has showed himself to be more than once, when a man like that insists upon airing his ridiculous opinions in a public place such as the Long Dragon Bar, then I've got no choice but to confound him with the superior knowledge which I possesses.
That may be well and good, perhaps, but it's only what you say.
On the contrary, Mr. Beamish, the statements which I have just made are such as might come from any intelligent human being with a true knowledge of scientific principle, which same can't be said for some of us here at this bar.
So you say.
That's right, so I say, and if you can't contribute nothing but the same 3 words to this discussion, I will thank you to admit that you're defeated and shut your mouth.
Well, now, Mr. Fotheringay.
Easy, lads.
I appeal to you,
Easy
Constable.
does it.
I appeal to you, Constable, when I'm only trying to enlighten the man from the bog of ignorance he's a-floundering in. And he keeps coming up with his infernal, so you say. Well, I'm a-wasting my words, that's all.
If the pints of stout and ale flowed across this bar the way words do, why, then I'd have been retiring years ago.
Quite right, Miss Bridges. I'll have another the same if you don't mind.
Let's see, that was a pint of bitter, wasn't it?
By all rights, Toddy Beamish, I shouldn't be wasting me time on you. But out of the goodness of my heart, I'll do it anyhow.
Suit yourself.
There you are.
Now, let's take, for example, that pint of ale that you're holding in your hand.
It's pretty nigh empty.
Well, I paid for the last one. All right. Now, suppose, for instance, if that ale was to turn into wine.
I never cared much for wine. Always liked ale better.
Now, if that ale there was to turn into wine, then you'd have a miracle.
So you say.
So anybody says. Perhaps you ain't even aware of the proper definition of what a miracle is, Mr. Beamish.
Well, some miracles is one kind, and some is another.
If anybody left so much as 2pence on the bar as a gratuity for my services, that would be a miracle, all right.
Be that as it may, Miss Bridges, but a miracle ain't of one kind or another. A true miracle is something contrariwise to the course of nature, done by the power of will.
So you say.
Something what couldn't happen without being specially willed to happen. And miracles ain't possible.
Easy, lad, easy now.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say they ain't.
It's your ignorance that's talking. Look, you see that lamp sitting there on the end of the bar, burning as bright as you please?
I see it right enough.
Now, that lamp, in the natural course of nature, couldn't burn like that if it was turned upside down and hanging in the air.
You say it couldn't.
Mr. Beamish, do you mean to tell me that you...
All right. Maybe it couldn't.
Ah, and if it did, it'd be a miracle. Very well. Now, supposing somebody was to come along, take me, for instance, and he pointed his finger at that lamp like this and said, turn upside down. Now, if the lamp...
Science preserve us if it aren't doing it.
Well, now.
Blimey.
A burning and a hanging there without no visible means of support. George!
I can't keep it up there much longer.
Remarkable. All remarkable.
And now then, Mr. Fotheringay, stop it. Stop it immediately, and that's my official order.
Have a care, Constable. Watch out. There it goes.
Oh, now see what you've done, Mr. Fotheringay. My best lamp chimney. Oh, clean no more than an hour ago. Smashed into smithereens.
But I didn't try to do it.
Oh, for all you knew, you might have caught the whole place afire.
Most irregular and illegal besides, like as not. We'll have no more of it. You understand?
But I tell you, I didn't mean
you
for
and your silly conjuring tricks.
It wasn't a conjuring trick.
That's what you say.
No doubt you've had a bit too much to drink.
All I done was to point my finger at it like that and...
Stop it now! Don't you dare!
But that's all I done.
In that case, Mr. Fotheringay, you defeat your own argument right out of your own mouth.
And how is that, might I ask?
If it weren't caused by some form of trickery, then what happened to that lamp was a miracle.
Oh, here now, I ain't holding with no blooming miracles.
Hold with them or not, as the case might be, Mr. Fotheringay. But you just stood right there and performed a real, true, honest, genuine miracle. That's what you done.
It wasn't a matter of being asked to leave the Long Dragon, you understand. I already had my mind set on going anyhow. A place what's full of ignorant superstition ain't the kind of place for a man of rational intellect to be doing his thinking in. And thinking was just what was called for. On the one hand, I weren't ready to swallow no miracle theory, but on the other hand, I wasn't able to recollect no scientific principle what might account for that which had happened. As you might say, the question had dissolved itself into a dilemma. Oh, my landlady, Mrs. Tetherington, was sitting up in the parlour when I come in.
Good evening, Mr. Fotheringay.
But I can't recall saying anything to her.
Well, very well, Mr. Fotheringay.
I went straight to my own room, closed my door, lit the candle, and then I sat there on the edge of my bed, grappling with the problem in heroic fashion and trying to puzzle out the ultimate solution. It weren't no easy thing to do. It couldn't have happened, but it had happened, which ain't logic no matter how you look at it. Why, it'd be the same situation if I was to point my finger at that candle there and say, be raised up in the air, and it was to... Oh, blimey! Hanging there like a blooming firefly. But it's contrariwise to... Whoop, there it goes! Oh, black as your hat. Now, where in the tarnation did that confounded thing get to? Huh? At any rate, there should be some matches around here somewhere. Oh, I say, maybe I could... Let there be a match in me hand. Well, now, just like that. Oh, a safety match. A lot of blooming good that's going to... half a mo now. Maybe I don't need no match. Maybe I could... Candle, wherever you are, be lighted. Oh, here now, not in the middle of my bed. Oh, no, we'll not be having any of that now. Well, come in, it ain't locked.
Mr. Fotheringay, might I inquire what's coming off up here?
You might inquire, and to blazes with you. Can't you recognise a man who's got his hands full of trouble?
Troubles indeed. I'll have you understand. Mr. Fotheringay, why is smoke coming out of that bed?
Because it caught on fire, that's why.
Oh, me wool comforter with a Noel band in it, and taking lighted candles to bed with you.
I am not taking no candles anywhere, and I will thank you to leave me the privacy of my own bedchamber.
Well, I never. You have been drinking.
On the contrary, I have been cogitating upon matters of science, which is far beyond the range of your feeble intellect.
With all the money I have to spend on candles. I'll have you know that if any candles are going to be tossed around loose like in this house, I'll do the tossin'.
Mrs. Tetherington, I might remind you that good, steady lodgers, such as a man like myself, ain't so easy to come by nowadays, with which I will bill you a highly respectable good night.
Well, I've never been so insulted in all my life, and you can rest assured you haven't heard the last of this.
Old vulture. Don't know who she's talking to. Me? A bloke what's only got to point his finger and say, be, and it is.
Blimey, if I ain't suddenly got the power to perform miracles. Real, genuine miracles.
Like as not, the result of my long devotion to the true principles of science. Well, I got through the next day without no trouble, and come evening I went walking down the lane that leads around Millsdale's pond, attempting to put my mental processes into order, as you might say. Mostly I kept trying to cogitate on some honest-to-Betsy miracle I might up and perform. But it ain't such an easy matter for a chap who's unaccustomed to goings-on of that nature. Oh, what I wanted was the genuine article, you understand. No little shenanigans, one with which to make people stop and say,
Blimey now, if that ain't a real downright miracle for you. And all of a sudden, I had it. I just happened to recollect a chap somewhere who stuck his staff into the ground and commanded it to blossom. So, I poked me walking stick into the edge of the turf, I backed off a wee bit and pointed me finger at it. Walking stick, become a blooming bush of flowering posies. Roses, by heaven. I done it! Just like that fella in the opera.
Here now, what's going on here?
Oh, Constable Winch, confound the man anyhow.
Cease and desist whatever it is you're doing in the name of the crowd.
Oh, you there, Rosebush, go back now, fast.
Have a mind there who it is you're throwing bramble bushes at. Blasted thorns smite into the man severely. Yeah, there.
Confounded blundering idiot.
I'll see now who's conducting nefarious activities under the cover of darkness. Assaulting an officer engaged in the pursuit of his natural... Well, so it's you, Mr. Fotheringay.
The fact being self-evident, Mr. Winch, I will not bother myself to answer.
So you'll not bother yourself to answer, eh? Maybe you'll also deny that you just threw a great heavy mass of foliage at me?
I do deny it.
Then no doubt it just up and flew through the air all by itself.
Constable Winch, you have just hit the nail on the head.
So that's the way the wind blows. Some more of them blasted hanky-pank conjuring tricks of yours, is that it?
On the contrary, it was merely a small miracle.
You don't say so. In which case his honour might enjoy hearing you tell about it. So come along with you now.
I will do nothing of the kind.
Oh, resisting an officer. That'll be another charge against you.
Charge, indeed. Mr. Winch, you can take your charges and go to Hades. Whoa, Constable. Oh, Mr. Winch. Oh, blimey, if he ain't gone and disappeared complete like. Oh, I wonder if he...
I'm thinking this miracle business ain't all it's talked up to be. Why, a man might find himself in a whole peck of trouble before he learns the knack of the thing. I'm thinking I'd best go and get myself some really professional advice right away.
Good evening to you, brother. A very pleasant evening to you.
And the same to you with many of them, Mr. Maydig. That is, your reverendship.
Oh, no formality now, none at all, no. Just call me Mr. Maydig.
Well, now, thank you kindly, your Maydig ship.
Won't you step inside?
Much obliged to you, Mr. Reverendship.
Just follow me now. This way, Mr. I can't say that I caught the name.
Fotheringay. George W. Fotheringay.
Ah, yes. Not from my parish.
Well, yes. I attended services last Christmas.
Indeed? Well, so many people did last Christmas. Well, here we are, Mr. Fotheringay. Take a chair.
It's Fotheringay. Nice diggings you've got here.
Oh, adequate, Mr. Motheringay. Adequate for my simple wants. Yeah, now Now just feel entirely free to lay your burdens upon my shoulders.
Well, the fact is, the matter which I come here to talk about might be considered of a somewhat delicate nature.
Oh? Well, think nothing of it. Please, feel free to speak, speak freely. My housekeeper retires very early.
Oh no, Your Reverendship, it's nothing like that.
Oh. Then, what?
The subject about which I'm inquiring is miracles.
Miracles? Yes, indeed, miracles. Any special kind of miracles?
Oh, yes. The kind which I perform myself.
Oh, which you perform... I see. And what sort of miracles do you perform?
Well, for one thing, I have just finished sending Constable Winch to Hades.
Hades? Indeed. Oh, that's very interesting.
Well, of course, when I realized what had happened, I had him transferred to San Francisco. Wherever that is.
Oh, I'm sure he'll like San Francisco much better.
You don't believe me. I can't say that I blame you none either.
Well, after all, Mr. Dotheringay...
It's Fotheringay. Well, very well. There ain't nothing else to do but for me to go up and perform a few miracles before we go any farther.
Well, that's very interesting, I'm sure.
Now, you just take that jar of tobacco there on the table, for instance. Suppose I just point my finger at it, like this, and... become a bowl of violets.
Yes, indeed, it's very
You see, it ain't no tobacco jar no more. It's a bowl of violets.
Well, God blimey. I mean, so it is.
Of course, it ain't nothing very spectacular, Your Reverendship, but it is the sort of a miracle a man can pass without tangling himself up in a mass of trouble.
Extraordinary. Very... well, extraordinary.
You can see for yourself they're real violets.
Indeed. Yes, indeed.
Now, take this, for example. Become a bowl of fish.
Ooh.
No, not that kind. Live fish in a goldfish bowl, swimming around. Now. Well, that's better.
It's amazing. How did you do it?
Just told it to.
That's all?
That's all. When I tells a thing to do it, it does it.
Incredible.
Come on, Miss Sutton, like you might say. And I'd like to know if it's a real genuine miracle or if it ain't.
Well,
seeing as our miracles ought to come under Your Reverendship's special province, more or less.
Yes, indeed. However, usually in a somewhat more academic fashion. These are more astonishing.
As far as I can tell, there ain't no limit to it. Like, for instance, bowl of fish, turn into a pigeon.
Oh, good heavens, look at the thing.
Here now. None of that. Oh, you stay away from Mr. Maydig now. Perhaps I'd better become that jar of tobacco again. Well, Reverend, what do you think about it?
Amazing. It's the most extraordinary thing I've ever seen in my life. Ever expected to see. No, I've got to think about it, consider the possibilities.
Well, I might come back in the morning.
Oh, no, wouldn't hear of it. I was about to dine when you rang. I wonder if you'd join me. Of course, I'm afraid there's only cold mutton.
Oh, well, now, maybe there's something else you might like better.
Oh, anything. Frankly, I've grown to hate the sight of... Eh? You don't mean...
Why not? Just name it.
Pheasant. I haven't tasted pheasant in years.
Then now is the time. Let there be a pheasant on the table. No. Not like that. Let it be dead and roasted and ready to eat.
Look at it. Oh, it's beautiful.
Smells good, too. Maybe we'd best, let there be 2 pheasants.
And truffle.
Yeah, and truffles.
Maybe some oysters.
2 dozen oysters. You better make it 3 dozen.
And some cheddar. Oh, we must have some cheddar.
A pound of cheddar. And what to drink, Your Reverendship? Champagne?
Well, I really shouldn't, you know, but, perhaps a small bottle of Moselle?
6 bottles of Moselle, a keg of stout, and a case of champagne. There wasn't no mistake about it. I'd come to the right place for certain. Once Mr. Maydig got over his first astonishment, he turned out full of ideas for brand new miracles. Things even I might never have thought of, like as not. Well, we polished off that meal in no time at all. As easy as a cat frying eggs. And an hour later, we was out walking in the dark streets of the village, turning out miraculous jobs so fast, I fairly wore out my finger a-pointing with it. I couldn't begin to tell you all the wonderful things we did in a couple of hours. Installed a new railway line, drained Flinders Swamp, turned it into a meadow, cured the vicar's warts, paved all the roads, eliminated taxation, reformed the Lord Mayor, and made all the girls in the village beautiful. These weren't none of your halfpenny miracles. All of these were big. And we went right on turning them out, one every 2 minutes, just as regular as clockwork. By midnight, we passed clean through the village and were walking along the lane by Millsdale's Pond, fairly tired out by all that thinking and pointing and performing of miracles.
Mr. Fotheringay, I've just thought of another one.
Indeed? And what might it be?
The village clock. There in the steeple. Listen to it. It's terrible.
True enough. It ain't got a very melodious sound to it.
Then let's give them a good clock, eh? A great, rich, booming one.
All right, Mr. Maydig. Let that there clock become a genuine London-style cathedral clock.
Much better. Much better. The people of this village are going to have a big surprise when they wake up in the morning after all we've done for them tonight.
I might say there's one or two things we've done that I ain't so sure about.
Oh?
Like turning every drop of alcoholic beverages into plain water, for instance.
Oh, it's nothing to worry about, Mr. Fotheringay. You can always turn out a miraculous pint or two for your own purposes, and it will reform all the drunkards in the village.
Maybe so. At any rate, we might as well wait and see what comes of it. What do we perform next?
I really don't know. Can't think of another single miracle that we haven't already.
Half a moment, Mr. Maydig. I just thought of one of my own I'd best take care of. Let Constable Winch be right back in San Francisco again. He might be catching a boat or a train or something, you understand? I think the best idea is just to keep sending him back there every once in a while.
I doubt you have anything to worry about. San Francisco is some distance away, you know.
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
I keep trying to think of one more miracle. A big one. Something worthy of ending the night with. But I just don't... Oh, well now.
Huh?
I say, there is one, you know.
Such as?
You see that moon, Mr. Fotheringay?
Naturally. Almost full, by the looks of it.
You remember Joshua?
Joshua? Joshua? Oh, come off it now.
It would be a wondrous thing to see.
Well, now, that's a pretty tall order, making the moon stand still.
Oh, well, actually, it only appears to stand still. What really happens is that the Earth stops rotating.
You don't have to inform me about scientific principles of which I'm already familiar, Mr. Maydig. Howsoever, I think we'd best not go monkeying around with the universe.
Well, you probably don't have the power to do it anyway. It's really a superior class of miracle, you know.
I got the power, all right, but I ain't so sure it's a good idea. I could do it if I wanted to.
Oh, of course you could. Well, perhaps we'd better get along home.
Half a mo now. I might just leave it stopped for a little while.
Oh, if you could stop it at all.
Oh, well now, if that's the way you feel, you just take a look at this. The old blinking world. Stop rotating. Oh, here now. What's all this? I didn't order no wind.
Fotheringay, what have you done?
I don't rightly know. Look out. Things is starting to blow loose.
Oh, you confounded, blundering idiot.
Duck your head. Here comes a cow through the air. Missed. You better lie down in the ditch before it gets blowed away.
Oh, it's getting worse all the time.
And I can't seem to pull my wits together. Oh, I got it. When the Earth stopped rotating,
Everything on the surface kept right on moving. 500-600 miles an hour. Houses, cows, the wind, everything. It's a scientific principle.
A lot of good that does. Stop it, man. Stop it. Do something. Do...
Oh, Mr. Maydig! Oh, Mr. Maydig! Oh, blimey if he ain't blown clean away. Gone. Oh, now I got myself in a fine kettle of fish for certain. Only there weren't so much confusion, maybe I could... Oh, I say now. That's it. It's the only answer. All right now. Let nothing happen until I say the word go. And when I do, let everything go back exactly like it was just before I turned that blooming lamp upside down in the Long Dragon bar. And at the same time, let me loose this here miraculous power complete-like. Forget all about it. Have you got it now? Everything just as it were? No more miracles, and let me forget the whole thing. All right then. Ready? Go!
That's only what you say.
And the same as anybody might say who's got the least bit of scientific knowledge inside of their thick heads. Ain't I right, Constable Winch?
You couldn't rightly say, Mr. Fotheringay. The subject ain't exactly in my province, you know. And all the same, Miss Bridges.
Right you are, Constable.
Irregardless, Mr. Beamish, miracles ain't possible.
So you say.
So I say. Maybe you don't even know what a miracle is.
Here we are.
Maybe if I was to point my finger at that lamp there on the bar and tell it to turn upside down, I suppose you think it might do it.
Well, I wouldn't say it wouldn't.
You wouldn't say it wouldn't. Mr. Beamish, you ain't got a brain in your head, and I'm only wasting my time trying to enlighten you, which I ain't going to do any longer. There you are, Miss Bridges.
Why, thank you kindly, Mr. Fotheringay.
I'll be dropping in again when the place ain't quite so crowded. I bid you all a respectful, a good, a night.
Well, Toddy, I'd say you got the best of the argument tonight. I never saw him
Glory be, will you take a look at this?
What's up, Miss Bridges?
Sixpence. He left me a sixpence. Right here on the bar, big as anything.
And so he did.
The like of it ain't never happened before. Saints preserve us if it ain't a downright bloomin' miracle. That's what it is. A bloomin' miracle.
Escape is produced and directed by Norman MacDonald. Tonight we have brought you The Man Who Could Work Miracles by H.G. Wells, adapted for radio by Les Crutchfield, with editorial supervision by John Dunkel. Featured in tonight's story was Ben Wright as Mr. Fotheringay, with John Daner as Mr. Maydig, Wilms Herbert as Totty Beamish, and Jeff Corey as Constable Winch. Eleanor Audley was Mrs. Tetherington, and Constance Cavendish was Bridges. Special music by Ivan Ditmars. With tonight's program, we bring to a close the present series of the world's best stories of high adventure by the world's greatest authors, presented as Escape. Next week, at this time, Lum and Abner return to the air in a new half-hour program you'll want to hear. Be sure to listen. Roy Rowan speaking for CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.